Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Justin, and today, as you can see, I'm here with a buddy of mine.
Anthony A. Perez. What's going on, everybody? Thank you, my friend, for having me in this video.
Of course. So, for those who are familiar, I've actually been on Anthony's channel a few times talking about Star Wars and a bunch of other stuff, and we've rambled for hours. And so I was like, you know what? I want to have him on my channel finally to talk about something.
So without further ado, today me and Anthony are going to be talking about all the spoilers, all the positives, all the negatives, all the DCEU continuity in Wonder Woman 1984.
What better thing to talk about than frickin' Wonder Woman 1984, one of the most anticipated films that's actually coming out this year, that came out this year.
Honestly, one of the only ones that I think people were looking forward to. No matter the thoughts on the film, I think it's like one of the only ones that actually came out in 2020. At least a little treat for the movie watchers.
Like a blockbuster, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a good Christmas?
Yeah, man, it was nice. My Christmas was a little bit weird this year, and partially my own fault. I decided to wake up at 3 in the morning to watch Soul, and then I reviewed Soul, and then I uploaded that review, and then I went to sleep, and my girlfriend went to work, and while she was at work, I went to see Wonder Woman in theaters, and came back, reviewed that, took a nap, and then I went to go hang out with my family like at the tail end of the night. So I didn't really have.
God, yeah. You were gunning it since like 3 a.m. and you didn't stop.
I had my own little Christmas with watching all the movies.
That's what's up. Yeah, I still need to see Soul, and after I do that, I'll check out a review. I don't know about you. I'm kind of the person where like I'll watch a movie, and then if I film my review, I don't necessarily need to edit yet. But once I film my review, then I'll watch my buddy's review because I'll already like. I don't like to have other people's thoughts influence my own opinion before I do it. Yeah. So you said you're going to get your tattoo done for Christmas or something.
Yeah. So I showed it to you. I'm working on this character leg right now. My left leg. My intention is to get the whole leg done. And the guy that I'm going to, it's really good with like this very cartoony, like very colorful style. It's so bare bones. It's one of these things where like right now I have Chucky, Venom, Stitch.
That's so sweet.
Jack Skellington and the Joker. I wanted to make it as weird as I possibly could as far as the like just the different kind of characters. Once I get onto my thigh, I have tons of other characters planned out. We're gonna add like a background and all this color and
I'm sure someone's just like, well, what's the theme here? You're just like, fucking me. That's the theme. Like that's my theme.
It is. I felt like each character that I've chosen so far kind of is just part of what I love about movies and characters. You know, like they all kind of touch on different parts of me, and I look forward to doing that with as I add more characters and add more color. But of course, tattoos are expensive, and
I know that.
Yeah.
So finally, getting into Wonder Woman 1984, and of course, before we talk about it, I just have to say, definitely check out Anthony's channel. He's probably the most knowledgeable person about Star Wars I know, and he knows way more than me or even my best friend Pat, who knows so much about it. So I'll leave that link in the description once I finish editing the video. But we have Wonder Woman 1984. People have been giving very mixed opinions about this.
Yeah.
And before I really say my personal opinions, we'll just do it with the general plot here. So basically, it does rewind it to 1984. I guess you would consider it rewind because even though BVS was the first appearance, and then you had Wonder Woman, and then it went to Justice League, and then it went to Wonder Woman 1984. There's definitely and there's flashbacks in each of those movies, so there's definitely some timeline that has to be made. But anyways, so we have Wonder Woman 1984. It's basically Diana dealing with the loss of Steve Trevor even 60 plus years later.
Yeah.
And she is facing off against a new foe, Maxwell Lord, who's like this greedy douchebag who just wants all the money in the world and he doesn't care how he gets it.
And while all this is going on, Diana's working as an anthropologist in the Smithsonian. She meets a new employee named Barbara Minerva, played by Kristen Wiig. And after Wonder Woman foils an attempted robbery at the beginning of the film, the FBI asks Barbara to identify the cache of stolen goods from the robbery. And one of them is an ancient artifact called the Dreamstone.
And said artifact basically gives people the abilities to make wishes, but they come with a price. That basically explains the way Steve Trevor comes back in this film. So Wonder Woman makes her wish, Barbara Minerva also makes a wish, and then Maxwell Lord grants her another wish, which eventually makes her transform into the cheetah.
Yeah, pretty much, man. This is a movie that, for me, I think you've said it the best way that you probably can. You know, like it's got a lot of moving pieces. No, man, yeah, and it's got a lot of moving pieces. It's one of those movies that is not something you can just kind of give a just straightforward just plot synopsis to. We were talking about it a little bit briefly before we started recording, and I think that lends to maybe some of the bad stuff about this movie. But what I can say is I'm happy that we're doing a spoiler review, so we can kind of get into all of those, you know, and get into the nitty gritty about what really works about this movie. If you don't mind, I'll go ahead and share my thoughts on this really quickly. When I walked
Absolutely not.
When I walked
100% no.
When I walked into the theater to see it, it was 10:45 in the morning, or I was a little bit before that. There was really not anybody in the theater at the time. I hadn't looked and seen any of the reviews posted by any of the big YouTubers that I watch, any of my friends who got to see it, people that are overseas or people who just in their city, they were actually doing some early screenings, which we talked about as well, about how our local area wasn't doing that. Yeah. And I had zero knowledge of what people were thinking about the movie. Not even a picture of a thumbnail of somebody's face, whether they were smiling or not, to really give me anything. And so when I got here at 10:45 in the morning, I was super hyped. When I got home, it was a little bit after 1. When I got back home after 1, and I started filming my review. If you see my review, I love the movie. I had a great time with it. I found it to be a really epic follow-up. I think that it was cool that it had a different, lighter tone to it. I enjoyed the color palette of the film. And there was moments about it we'll get into in a little bit that I felt were truly emotional and resonated with me. And as a Wonder Woman fan, I just found it to be a good, fun comic book movie. Is it my favorite in the DCEU? No. But then I get off of filming and I stop filming and I end up, stepping to the side. And before I start actually editing my review, I start going online and I see how divisive this film is.
Right, though.
It's crazy. It kind of reminded me like of what happened with The Last Jedi, because that's another movie that I genuinely love. And when I walked out of the theater, I was so hyped on it. I remember, I'll never forget it. I went to Snapchat, instantly recorded this like excited, just like, oh my God, I just saw The Last Jedi. This was a great time. And then right after that, went online and saw that there was so much hate, that people were ripping at each other's throats. And I was just so surprised. And I kind of felt the same way with this movie. So those are my general thoughts. I had a great time, and I'm genuinely shocked to see how much it split the audience. But it's quite interesting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my general thoughts, I personally, I thought it was decent. I thought it was a mediocre film, and I see a lot of people being really hype about this film, and a lot of people just straight up hating it. And my personal thing, I think, is sometimes as movie reviewers, we have a hard time putting ourselves in someone else's shoes. We don't know what they're expecting. We don't know if certain characters have personal, meaning to us as people. But I think for me, it's just there was a lot going on, like you said. I believe Barbara Minerva was a good character, and I think she could have been set up to be Cheetah in a future film. And I think maybe her being Cheetah at the end kind of took away. But to be fair, in a superhero movie, you need an epic fight at the end.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing they were trying to figure out how are you going to have an epic fight with some guy who can just grant wishes. Maxwell Lord. Yeah. So the characters, before I get into some of my other thoughts, Pedro Pascal plays Maxwell Lord. Kristen Wiig, she plays the Cheetah, Barbara Minerva. Yeah. And, of course, Gal Gadot returns as Wonder Woman, Chris Pine, Steve Trevor. And then you have a whole laundry list of returning cast members and new people coming into the mix. I think overall, the cast worked for me.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think the cast was great. And Kristen Wiig was one that really surprised me, because when she was first cast as this role, I wasn't necessarily thrilled, to be honest. And it's not because I don't think she's a good actress. I talked about it in my review. I think she's got a lot of potential as a dramatic actress, and we've seen her play, drama in a lot of movies, even in the comedies. But I think without a doubt, we always, you see an actress like her and you think, oh, she's the comedy lady. And after having seen the movie, I think she did a great job of playing this character that was endearing. It was a little goofy, a little cheesy, very reminiscent of what they did with Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2, where it's got this overly dweeby character that kind of becomes brooding and powerful near the end of the movie. Yeah. And so I saw those comparisons and I can see the struggle there. But I think Kristen Wiig kind of showed that this person that has this kind of envious of somebody like Diana Prince, because she wasn't like
like Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2, he was jealous of Spider-Man because he was a hero.
Yeah.
Kristen Wiig didn't know Diana was a hero. She was just jealous that Diana was like sexy. She was jealous that she had a lot more knowledge than she did, so it appeared. But
Yeah.
everyone, I want to know what your theory is on this. Everyone was trying to say that Kristen Wiig was bisexual in the film. I don't know why it would matter at all, but obviously she had an interest in Pedro Pascal. But the whole thing with being attractive like Wonder Woman and stuff, obviously you can have like a platonic want for something like that. But everyone was trying to theorize and say she was bisexual.
I mean, I guess she could be, but does it matter really? I don't think anything. Like if it would have like been something that just kind of developed naturally, then sure. But for me, I didn't really get that. I saw a girl who is, or a woman who is jealous. She was jealous of this person that
100%.
she really enjoys. Here's this lady that she meets that's gorgeous, and she seems to be liked by everybody, and she just kind of has this demeanor of confidence and seems cultured and seems like she's lived this life, you know. And you kind of want to be in her shoes. You want to, you know, you feel what it is to be her in a lot of ways. And near the beginning,
that's the main thing, confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the film, you know, she invites her to like instantly, like, hey, you want to have lunch with me? Like, she kind of wants to be close to this person. And at the very beginning, you know, and they end up going having lunch and everything's fine, but she feels almost standoffish at first, you know, like Diana's kind of like, no. And I think the character, as she gets darker throughout the course of the film, she, for me, you know, she was just this jealous person who almost kind of has this view of like, you know, you didn't even want to go to lunch with me. You know, you were nice to me.
Probably.
Yeah. So she became like dark at the time. And it leads into what I really liked about the film is the message that's set up in the open, which is
so basically, since my general thoughts, obviously we differ a little bit on the film. I generally thought it was decent. You loved it, and I can respect that, no problem. So before I talk about my negatives or positives, I'm going to let you start out with the positives first. But overall, I just want to say I didn't hate the film. I still liked it better than other DCU films like Batman vs. Superman theatrical or Suicide Squad. Agreed. So that's overall, like it's still something that I would end up buying on Blu-ray for my shelves back there, adding it to the collection. And it still has some fun moments in it. So positives, because it's 2020 and we need some positivity. I'll let you start out with that, brother.
For me, I really enjoyed the message of the film. I think at the beginning you get that great opening where we get to see Themyscira again. We get to see her as a young girl again in this like epic, almost like, you know, this epic race of sorts. That's I really enjoyed that whole sequence at the beginning.
That was cool, yeah.
People that I talked to say like, oh yeah, they just felt like a random action sequence. What was the point? But for me, you got that great moment where at the very end, she's running. She thinks she's gonna be part of that final moment. And Robin Wright's character grabs her and pulls her down. And she's like, you know, like, no, that's not fair. And she's like, you know, greatness is not what, I don't remember, this is paraphrasing a little bit, but she essentially said like, greatness is not what it seems like, you know, like what it is.
Greatness isn't achieved by cutting corners, basically.
Exactly. and it's this thing, it's like cheating. And the whole movie played on the idea of cutting corners, of cheating things to achieve greatness. And you see that with all three characters, with Wonder Woman, all three main big characters. With Wonder Woman, with bringing Steve Trevor back, she, you know, cheated life. She cheated his sacrifice to bring him back for her own personal greatness. But then it also was the sacrifice of her greatness that brings peace to the world. You know, Cheetah, Barbara, she cheated. What it was to, you know, that she cheated up to the becoming this
cheetah, the cheetah.
Yeah, cheetah. She cheated her way to this power that, you know, this sense of greatness, but lost everything that made her special. And then of course the one who probably is the strongest example of it is Max Lord, with, you know, essentially cheating his entire way to the top. And I like the idea. The movie's a little campy in the sense that it's almost like, do you really think in a world as selfish that we live in today that everybody would renounce their wish? The answer is no. It's a little hopeful in a way that's a little bit campy. But I enjoyed the message of, you know, not cheating corners to achieve your own personal greatness, and the things you can lose in doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's fair. I definitely see that, and that's some of the positives for me. Like Maxwell Lord, you saw it earlier on, like when he grants people wishes, they come at a price and they don't know the price. So Wonder Woman wanting Steve Trevor back, I almost called him Steve Rogers for a second. Wonder Woman wanting Steve Trevor back, I kind of like that. It didn't necessarily humanize her, but it took away, like you said, a part of her. So you see her slipping up at times. She lost her lasso, and then she got hit by like a stray bullet or something and winged her shoulder, and you saw her get messed up from that.
Yeah.
And she was losing herself towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that that's part of the whole thing is she recognizes that she has to sacrifice. You have to make sacrifices. You have to push through things you don't want to push through in order for to become great. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of resonated with the character. I think if there's any character that message kind of really leans on, it's Max Lord he's like the main one cheating his way to greatness. But I enjoyed that message. I enjoyed the performances like we were just talking about. Like I think everybody did a good job. Everybody's kind of crapping on Pedro Pascal, or it's kind of a divisive thing.
I loved him.
Yeah, big comic book, big comic booky, a big over the top, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so like people were saying like in the beginning when Pedro Pascal is just like, "Hello everyone," and he says his catchphrase and like points to the bird, like it's like, yeah, but like if you're a big TV, he's not a TV personality, but he's like a face. He's a big face of a corporation, and he makes commercials and he talks in that like convincing American way, even though he's not obviously American in the film. I guess he has some sort of nationality to him, but like everyone called that campy and over the top. But I was just like, well, first of all, I might not have fully accepted it, but it's called Wonder Woman 1984, so it does take place in the 80s, and I get Patty Jenkins like trying to get that like entire 80s vibe, not just the look and stuff like that, but the tone of the film too feels like something that would have been shot in the 80s.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Pedro Pascal, like, I definitely agree from what you're saying. A lot of people were crapping on him, but I don't know. He was an effective villain. His presence was there throughout the whole movie, and he wasn't just a typical cookie cutter bad guy. Yeah. Like the way he becomes like Maxwell Lord with the abilities is a little hokey. Like he's like, I wish to absorb the what was the trinket, like the little artifact. He absorbs the artifact that can grant you wishes. He's like, my wish is that I want to be the artifact. So he becomes the artifact and like embodies him and stuff like that. And it's a little hokey, but once they get to where they're talking to like world leaders and shit like that, and seeing how much chaos you can be by just granting wishes and having repercussions because of that was cool for me.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too, and I thought it made for an interesting threat. Some of it's a little hokey, some of it's very big comic booky, right? But that's another thing is part of why I'm so surprised at the vitriol hate that I've been seeing, because people just calling this movie flat out garbage. You know, you thought it was just okay, like kind of just, there was forgettable elements for you.
Yeah, there was stuff. If there's stuff in a movie, like there's tons of people say movies are garbage. I have a very hard time doing that, because if there's more than like one thing in a film that like I liked or something like that, like if it did something different for the Wonder Woman series or the DCU or just film in general, then I like it. Like Star Wars Last Jedi, I might not have been a big fan, but like the way it was shot was really cool. The scene with the giant star, I believe was it the cruiser, the Star Destroyer or whatever, that went to hyperspeed right through it was like a cruiser that did hyperspeed through a Star Destroyer. I was like, holy crap. I was like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, if you have things in your films that I still like, I can't call it a terrible film.
Yeah.
So there was a decent amount of stuff I enjoyed.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. I'm not one to really crap on movies entirely. Like there's no movie, even the ones I love to the end of time and space, they're all flawed, right? Like every movie has flaws. So like whenever I see people like calling movies garbage, I'm like, I'll show you garbage. I'll show you some of the garbage that I came across on some random streaming service, or gone to the theaters, as a movie reviewer. How many times have you gone to the theaters to go watch something random just to kind of get a review up of something new that's theatrical, and it's god awful. Not something that anybody really knows about, not the big movies. I just think that people are so hypercritical about certain things. And I watched this movie, and even for its negatives, at the end of the movie, I had a good time. Now, as far as some of its negatives for me, because I know you want us to get into some of that.
Well, yeah, I do want to get into negatives, but there is still some positives I would like to talk about, if that's okay.
Let's talk all about them, dude.
So, I know Hans Zimmer came back for the soundtrack. Huge fan of Hans Zimmer. He does BVS. I believe he is. I don't know if he's necessarily coming back, but they're using his and Junkie XL's original tracks for the Snyder Cut when it comes out versus Danny Elfman's score.
Yeah.
But I did notice a few things that were cool about the soundtrack. Hans Zimmer's score did have a very uplifting feel to it. Like when I saw action scenes with Wonder Woman, I felt inspired. Like you see the scene in the mall where there's a little African American girl and she looks at Wonder Woman and she smiles. I was like, all right, like that's cool. Like I see that. Like looking forward to like that's what a true heroine looks like and stuff. I was like, I like that. Yeah. But I did notice there's a scene where Wonder Woman is. Whether you say she's floating on air currents in the clouds or flying, they play a song. I think it's like an old like classical song, but it was used in the X-Men Days of Future Past trailer. The song's like like, but it's when she's in the clouds. But it was used in X-Men Days of Future Past trailer. I know it's like an older classical piece, but I was like, oh, okay, they're doing that. And also, say it again.
I'd have to see the scene again to remember exactly like the tune that's playing in that moment.
Yeah. But I did notice, did you pick up on the song that was playing when she had the lasso of truth around Maxwell Lord and she was talking about her loss?
No, I didn't. I mean, I know I definitely caught on to a couple of music cues from Batman versus Superman and the first Wonder Woman, of course, throughout the movie. But what was the song that was playing in that scene?
Well, that's exactly what I was saying. So when she has the lasso of truth around Maxwell Lord and she's talking about her loss with Steve, you hear that like din 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 din, like the piano music playing. It's the same song they played in the beginning of BVS when they showed like Bruce Wayne's parents dying and whatnot.
Gotcha. Okay, I didn't. In the moment, I was so like, because I saw it also. I saw it in Dolby, I should say, the first time. So I saw.
Oh, okay.
No, I wasn't too close to the screen, but I was like maybe like a couple rows behind like the bars. So I was like, like pretty decently like seated. I was pretty much in the middle. And so the music and everything was just the sound effects, everything was rumbling in my body. So that kind of made the experience pretty heavy. But yeah, I definitely look forward to revisiting it to pick up on some of those musical cues that I may have missed or not.
Oh, hell yeah. And I talked to you about this, but like I personally like put notes together. So I'm just double checking stuff to make sure I didn't miss because there is a lot to pack into this movie review just because there's a lot to pack into the movie itself. The director had a lot to accomplish.
No, yeah, for sure. I agree.
So yeah, I overall, there is a lot of positives. Do they outweigh the negatives for me? I'd say it's pretty even. There is like, it's definitely like a 60-40 thing. Like it's pretty damn close, but I'll let you talk about the negatives first. And if there's any other positive things I have to say, I'll put it in the continuity section when we start talking about that, but I'm leaving it off to you.
Yes, as far as negatives, there were a couple moments of some of the special effects that were a little strange to me. Like, because a lot of the movie looks beautiful, I would say, on an overall level. There's this one moment where she's running and it's kind of like slow motion, like she's running.
I already knew what you were going to say.
Yeah, it's out in like that great desert battle. And I love that battle. It was very reminiscent of like Indiana Jones for me. It reminded me of Raiders of the Lost Ark a little bit. But yeah, it was a couple moments where she was doing this run towards the screen. And I was like, I almost feel like they were going for like classic Wonder Woman, like, Linda Carter.
Yeah. Like that, like the motion, how she did her run.
Yeah, so I almost don't know if I should like hate on it, or if I should say it's a bad effect or if it was purposeful, because a lot of the movie looks really good. I also want to mention one other positive real quick before I continue on my negatives is that one thing I loved as well is the implementation. What kind of word is that? Them implementing
Anthony A. Perez word.
Yeah, implication. I liked how they implemented some of these elements from her mythology that we already know and love that we hadn't seen in the first movie, like very brief moment of like the invisible jet or her flying. You know what I mean? Like nowadays, like an animated DC movie, and you're a well-versed DC person, you're gonna almost expect to see those things in a Wonder Woman story, but we didn't see it in the first one. I like that they kind of implemented them and didn't make them like a focal point of the movie, but
they expanded on certain things about Wonder Woman and that universe.
Yeah, exactly. I thoroughly enjoyed that. As far as negatives on overall, like looking back, this was a movie I did thoroughly enjoy, so I don't have an abundance personally, but I am really looking forward to hearing what really stood out to you as a negative. But I would say that the movie for me at times just felt a little jam-packed. I'm at a place now where unless the movie has tons of heroes and it's something like Avengers Endgame or something like even like Guardians of the Galaxy, something where you have a bunch of different things going on.
Like a Martin Scorsese film too, or something.
Yeah, like something like that. I feel like having multiple villains in a movie for a comic book movie has just proven to be jam-packed, especially for comic book loving audiences. At this point, we want to see, and don't get me wrong, if you read comic books, you're used to these big hero team-ups, these big villain team-ups. But when you watch one of these movies that you only have the 2 hours and some change runtime, I think that at the end of the day, I liked Max Lord and I liked Cheetah as villains of this movie. But I wish that Cheetah had been the main and sole villain of the movie. I know that would remove a lot with the whole wishes thing and the theme of the movie that I was saying I liked before. But had they sculpted the movie around Barbara Minerva being the main villain and really spending that time they spent on Max Lord at all in this film on the development of Wonder Woman and on Barbara Minerva, I think that they could have made for a much more compelling final act. Being as like I feel like that message of this girl who's like envious, who turns to the dark side, but like falls to this dark because of her envious ways towards or envious views towards Wonder Woman. I feel like it could have made for a very interesting climax at the end of the film. And I still enjoyed it for what it was, but the Cheetah portion of the film is so short-lived, and it just feels like like I love what they did with the character of Barbara throughout the film, but the Cheetah portion just feels so short-lived. And I think the only other real negative that I had for me was I still don't 100% know or understand, maybe I missed something, how Diana ends up getting her hands on the golden armor that's set up at the beginning of the movie from Themyscira. Like, she just kind of shows up to that final battle with it, and I'm just wondering, like, if they ever said anywhere in the movie that she like got it at some point, like.
Because I don't know if you did see the scene where she's at her office. I think is she an anthropologist or archaeologist? I forget.
I think she's a archaeologist. I'm not too sure. I thought that. So was it in the background of one of those scenes?
Yeah, she had one of those scenes where it was like 8 feet tall and it was covered by like a tapestry, but you could see like the gold portion peeking like over the top of it.
I did think that's what they did, but I felt like it just kind of came out of nowhere, and so it's not like ever deliberately focused on. I thought to myself, oh, it must have been amongst her stuff, like in her apartment or in her office or something like that, and maybe I just didn't fully catch it. But I guess that makes sense. But that would be something like I just felt like it just kind of like I would have liked to have seen her kind of maybe get suited up or something. If I felt like she just kind of like had it, like, you know what I mean, when that scene came. But outside of that, man, I did really enjoy this movie, and the stuff that even was cheesy or maybe didn't, I guess what doesn't work for some people, I feel like worked for me. This is one of those interesting situations where I'm like almost on the complete opposite end of a lot of people, which now I'm very curious to hear what you thought were some of the biggest negatives of the film for you.
So some of the biggest negatives for me, obviously, like you said, was the Cheetah aspect. I personally wish they would, as I said previously, set Barbara Minerva up and set her up in a way where maybe she did get her wish, that she became like sexy and a firecracker, and she didn't know she got this like newfound strength, but maybe the strength wasn't as powerful as Wonder Woman's and stuff like that. So maybe she just had the strength of someone who worked out, Yeah. And I think the way they did the Cheetah origin was lazy, just because in the film, Maxwell Lord offers a wish to someone. And towards the end of the film, he's injured from offering all these wishes and granting them and having repercussions. And so he tries to ask random people what your wish is. He's like, oh, what's your wish? And the guy's like, oh, you already granted my wish yesterday. He's like, damn it. So he can like ask him again. No. But Barbara Minerva already had a wish. And then she got another one because he said, I'm feeling, what did he say? He said, he's feeling generous. But I was just like, well, you were looking for a wish earlier in the film, and the dude in there said you already asked. He already got his wish. So
true. I honestly didn't even think of that. Like that's definitely like a what the fuck kind of moment. Yeah. I definitely agree. That's definitely a glaring negative. Now that you mention.
Like, Like, yeah, and I don't, when I say negatives, I don't mean to like bring other people's like feelings about the film down. Like with
No, yeah,
Bar,
change anything. I love discussing maybe the stuff that I missed. Where I'm like, yeah, what the?
yeah, but
Who?
with Barbara Minerva, I don't know. Do you remember her like origin story in the comics and games and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely, they would change it up depending on the story or the timeline, but it
Yeah,
was definitely like what they did in this movie.
like I wish they would have just done something where like at the end you see Barbara Minerva on like an excavation site or a dig or something like that, or like in some like Mayan jungle or something, and she finds the dagger that's in the comic books, and I believe
Yeah.
I think she like cuts herself on the dagger or something like that, or it's used in a ritual and she like takes it mistakenly, like not knowing that the spirit of like the cheetah embodies her, and that's what like makes her transformation complete.
Yeah, yeah. It's one
But
of those.
either way, both ways they did it are a little hokey in modern cinema. But I think I would have rather have seen something like that. And the fact that Cheetah renounces her wish at the end, like she doesn't say it, but just like how Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman didn't say she wants Steve back, it's like you knew that's what she was wishing for when she held it.
Yeah.
But like she turns back to Cheetah, I'm like, Cheetah's basically like Superman's Lex Luthor. Like she's a recurring villain in all the Wonder Woman movies and animated films and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was just like, I mean, you still can bring her back, but it's still a weird thing to change her back at the end. So I rather would have seen maybe if they do another film, obviously not have it take place in 84 or within like 15, 20 years of BVS, but maybe just like mid 90s or something like that, and it starts out with Barbara Minerva on like one of those digs, and have it be like an Indiana Jones like treasure hunt type of movie or something.
Yeah, I think that could be definitely cool. I think without a doubt, it's interesting because the way I guess it kind of just goes to show that like modern comic book movies have kind of altered my view on them. Because when I was younger, I used to really be super, almost to a fault, hyper specific about like these movies being comic book accurate. Like
Yeah.
I remember going to see like, I don't know, X-Men Origins Wolverine, for instance, which is not a good movie. I think most people know that.
Yeah.
But what's it called? Like beyond the movie not being great, what really bothered me was stuff like, when have Wolverine and Sabretooth been like
brothers?
Like, you know what I mean? Like, or yeah, like it was just like, what? So that for me, like, took me out of it more than anything. And so for me, like watching this one, I guess for me, I'm so much more open to just having adaptations. But I can agree.
Yeah.
I think when you have a character like Cheetah that has such a rich background that is very different from this, I enjoyed the adaptation that we got. But I think undoubtedly, if they would have gone a little bit more traditional with her character, then I think that something could have been a little bit more enjoyed. Now, I do have a feeling her character will appear later on.
It's possible.
Setting her up for more because, like you said, she's kind of one of Wonder Woman's biggest foes. But then I guess another part of how my mind has kind of changed over like modern cinemas, how many big comic book villains from the comics have we seen make their big screen appearance and be taken out in one movie without like ever being...
So the ending portion, and I don't know if you know this with movies, but it's a common thing that the first Godzilla film and the second Godzilla film, King of Monsters, share. Basically, if animators and stuff are worried about their CGI looking like crap, they make the fight be overcast, they make the fight rainy, or they make the fight take place at night. And so the whole thing with Cheetah is like the fight took place at night because the CGI for her, it wasn't terrible or nothing like that. It was passable. It didn't look bad, but it kind of took me out of it when they had her whole like body and everything be cheetah-like, which is also weird because all she said for her wish was she wanted to be like an apex predator or alpha predator or something like that. I was like, so that automatically means like make me a kitty cat? Like, I don't know. But so her whole body is like cheetah-like, except her face. It had like the Spider-Man 3 Venom like peeled back type face, where like all the stuff around her face was there, but like Kristen Wiig was definitely present, like right here.
Yeah, for sure. I liked what they did. It was almost like they tried to make her face kind of feline-esque, but keep it very human as well. But I can see what you mean. Like, I think for me with those scenes, what really stands out is like, yeah, like there are moments. When I watch these movies, I really want a good look at the character. You know what I mean? Like that's really what I want to be able to see. And I think that that's kind of one of the issues I have with some of like the later Godzilla films, even though I enjoy them, is that like, man, I want to see these monsters, but they're hidden in all this darkness, and there's always
Yeah.
a storm and some like insanity happening. So with this one, there were moments where like when I saw that first trailer or one of those earlier trailers from Wonder Woman where like it ends with us seeing Cheetah and there's that
Yeah.
great or like land like where she like lands and she's kind of like lunging forward. It happens so fast in the movie that you don't even have time to really look at her character. I think the best shot of her character that we get is when she's before she even jumps down, when she's still up above, like looking down.
Oh yeah, and you see her. I think her eyes are like lighting up a little bit or something. You can see her like shadowy kind of. She looks like menacing as fuck up there.
Yeah, and like when they kind of get a little close to her face, and you can see that she's looking down. That was like the best look we got of her character because once the action starts, you know, it's not that you can't see the movie is in HD and it looks good, but like yeah, there's definitely moments with all the hopping around, jumping around where you know exactly what you're looking at, but you don't really get to see the nuances of the animation. And so yeah, that's definitely
Yeah.
something I definitely thought of when I was watching that finale.
Yeah. Another negative I had is like, so there are some positive parts of this aspect. Steve Trevor, I loved Chris Pine playing Steve Trevor again, and the way he came back worked enough for me. Like,
Yeah.
there's some people trashing and saying, like, oh, it was stupid. Like, Wonder Woman didn't really even seem phased when he came back. Da da da. I was like, well, first of all, like, she did show some emotion when she saw him. But the thing is, she still knew that it's because she made a wish and it's not her, Steve Trevor. It's Steve Trevor's basically like spirit in this person, so to speak, and she's the only one that can see it. I believe they explained that like everyone else sees him as that guy.
Yeah.
And so that kind of worked for me, but certain things they did, like Steve Trevor, like hopped in. I know that they were at the Smithsonian, but that airplane he hopped in was definitely like later than the 40s and stuff. And the movie, the first movie took place in like 19 World War I, I think, era.
Yeah.
So like planes have advanced a lot. So I was just like, I don't like, even though he like had to think about it for a second, like he definitely would have struggled to just get that off of the ground and figure out. Obviously, they have a scene where he's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Radar," and he's like, "Oh crap!" I'm like,
Yeah, no, definitely. I saw people make that comment, and I thought to myself, yeah, that's another thing that I think it didn't really phase me while I was watching it. Like, it didn't phase my enjoyment of the film. But without a doubt, like, yeah, like you can't help.
yeah, if I'm really picking at stuff, I should say.
No, but no, I think this is the reason we're doing this, right? Is because I love doing stuff like this because I like to know what people didn't like about it. So then if there's something, then I can be like, oh, like that doesn't ruin it for me. But yeah, like that's kind of like it's for instance, it's kind of like in The Last Jedi, right? It's a movie I love, but one of my favorite scenes is one of my least favorite like heart-wrenching mistakes ever made in a Star Wars movie. And I think we talked about it where it's a Praetorian Guard fight with Rey and Kylo, where that guy's like his guy's like weapon like disappears. Like I don't know if you.
He's. I watched the VFX breakdown, and the best thing is like, yeah, the weapon disappears just to make a shot continuity or whatever. But like when they all get ready to fight Rey, there's like 5 guys just like randomly spinning in the background, not knowing where to do. And that's a scene where I watched an actual stuntman break it down, and it's because the Praetorian Guards did their choreography separate from Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley. So when then they're fighting, it's still like happening, but they have to sell their impact more often. Like if Rey kicks them, there's a scene where Rey kicks one of them, and like the 3 of them that are standing behind the guard go like they all 3 of them got kicked or something like that. But yeah, so other things that just got on my nerves kind of is like a lot of the superhero tropes we see. Like Barbara Minerva, she wakes up with the super strength. You see her opening the fridge, and it's like the door comes off, and it's just like I've seen this in like 18 other movies. Like I know this transition already. I know like what's going to happen next. She's going to be like, oh, I don't know this, and then she's finally going to find some guy to beat up on, which is also weird. Before she made her wish, she got sexually like harassed and beat up by that dude almost before Wonder Woman stepped in. And then Wonder Woman just bounced and let her walk home. Like after she stopped the fight, she let Kristen Wiig still walk home.
I guess that's true. Did she just leave her there? Because she was as Diana in that moment. Remember, she was like
she was Diana.
Did they? Because I feel like it just kind of like kind of seemed like they walked off together, and I think the scene ended, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I would definitely have to go back. I could be remembering it differently because I might have been like butthurt about other stuff while I was watching it. So, but yeah, like the whole thing, I was literally waiting for when Minerva or Barbara Minerva got her wish. I was literally waiting for a Peter Parker moment where she's like with the glasses, like I know that shit's gonna be coming, and then sure enough, later on, she like doesn't need her glasses anymore. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why like not Barbara Minerva's character in herself, because she was sort of like you said, like Electro, but without the cheese. Like she obsessed with Diana for Diana, not for Wonder Woman. But when, as I said, when she got her powers and whatnot, it was just then that felt more like a Venom type character to me. And like that's what, as a whole, this kind of reminded me of like Kingsman and then Kingsman the Golden Circle, where like I still liked Golden Circle, but it started to go over the top and it tried to cram a lot in and got messy. So if I were to compare it to a film, I feel like that's what I have to compare it to.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's other things we could talk about. I mean, they could have shaved off some of the runtime. There, the tone for me, like it was just very. It was a big departure from the original one. I obviously know it's called 1984, so I know the tone is going to be different. But I think it's just because you had the original one that was a serious film with some humor and wit and some hokiness at the end when like Ares, even though Ares is supposed to be the god of war, I believe the DC version, which I didn't know at the time, he's like slinging lightning and doing telepathy and stuff, which is like a little too hokey for me. But if it's comic book accurate, then I guess like because I'm thinking of like the Greek Ares, like that's what I'm thinking of. But like there's still other positives. Like it's funny as hell when Diana's walking and she's curving dudes left and right that are trying to holler at her and shit like that. Like I appreciate little things like that.
Yeah.
But it's just overall it's a mess, and continuity wise versus the other films in the DCEU, I'll let you start with how you felt comparatively, and if there was any things that stuck out to you that were a connection with the other films or something that just didn't line up properly with the other ones.
I think the biggest thing that it doesn't line up with perfectly, I think, is when you watch Batman versus Superman, like her seeing this, like when she sees the photo or she really wants the photo of, that they take at the very end of Wonder Woman or near the end when they save that town. I think that without a doubt, there is a little bit of a disconnect because, when she sees that photo, it's almost like that's like the last time she saw him. And you could just you recontextualize it in your mind, but kind of like.
Yeah, when Bruce messages, he's just like, where have you been or something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's another thing. It's like, it's kind of the issue with introducing characters and continuing to make installments or make like prequels and stuff like that in the same universe. It's like, where was, like, as if people wouldn't know where Wonder Woman was. I think at some point somebody even says Wonder Woman, so like they must know her name. I may be wrong, but I think some guy says that at some point. And so it's like you feel like she would have been well known already. She just saves people and just is out there like no problem. Obviously, the Wonder Woman character has never had a mask on, but she doesn't even have the Clark Kent BS where it's like the glasses that somehow.
Yeah, like in the first film, she had glasses. She had like a astute like librarian woman outfit on. I don't know what you would call her outfit, but she just looked intelligent with that outfit on.
Yeah, and now she's like in this one. She's still like that, but she's never wearing the glasses or I think she maybe wears it in like a scene or two. And even then, I don't think she has them on very often. And then throughout the course of the movie, she's just kind of like, it's just like, for me, it's like, you mean to tell me that nobody recognizes her? She's kind of just out in the open. Like she just does what she does. You know what I mean? Like, especially like the whole opening mall sequence where she's literally bouncing around and kind of like, doing the whole thing where she like shushes at the girl. Everybody can see this woman. So it's like, it's kind of hard to believe that she wouldn't like be a bigger deal by the time the other films come around. You know what I mean?
I guess to be fair, like maybe they writ something in where like after like the mid 90s when technology was evolving and cameras were getting better, that's when she went into hiding. But like, because they did have the part where she uses her like crown or tiara to like hit the CCTV cameras and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But as you were saying, like she does go out in public, she does do all these things. So
Yeah, and that's a minor continuity. Outside of that, I thought it flowed well. I enjoy the character of Wonder Woman. I enjoy what Gal Gadot does with the character. I don't think there was anything that really stood out to me as of right now, but I'm definitely curious because I know you wanted to talk about continuity. What really stuck out to you that like really wasn't flowing correctly?
So continuity wise, there is things I liked. I liked the part at the end when she just basically accepts that Steve is fully gone because like she's grieving it still in the beginning of this film. Like she's not like 100% grieving like Steve just died, but like she still has that disconnect with like the other sex. Like she just doesn't care about any other males and stuff in the beginning of the movie and stuff. And I like that she lets Steve go because I believe in like Batman vs Superman and Justice League, Steve's not really mentioned. I think there's a brief scene when they're looking at the plane in Justice League and she says something about him, but it's not like she's like crying or anything like that. How she is.
The one scene that I think is the most emotionally resonant when it comes to Steve Trevor is when they're all kind of bickering, kind of going back and forth, and Bruce Wayne says some sort of line to her about like Steve Trevor, like some sort of snarky remark about like somebody she's
I did remember there was like one thing.
Yeah, and so she like says something about he says something about Steve Trevor, and she like pushes him in the chest, and he like flies back into like some boxes, and everybody else like flash, and everybody's watching like oh shit, and they like
and then who knows if that'll be in the Snyder cut now.
I am curious because I like that scene because that's when like I can't remember exactly the exact wording of it, but like the Flash says something to to Bruce Wayne where he's like, you know, if she kills you, we're gonna side with her. Like
yeah,
in that same moment.
And continuity wise, like her emotional range, just as an actress in general, I think this was Gal Gadot's or Gadot, however you want to say it. I think it's her best performance to date in a DCEU film. Like she poured so much emotion into it and heart and. There's just certain things, like at the beginning of the film when they're showing the arena battle and race on Themyscira.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman's like, what, 8 or 9 in that scene?
Yeah, she's pretty young.
Yeah, and so her mom, who was her mom? Hippolyta or Antiope? I forget. I forget which one of the mom was.
Hippolyta, I think.
Yeah, I think that's her mom. Someone will probably correct me if I'm wrong in the comments.
Yeah.
So... in the original Wonder Woman film, when they're doing all the flashbacks, even like Wonder Woman gets caught when she's training when she's like 13 or 14, and she's basically like pissed like Antiope would allow this to happen because she strictly like forbid it and shit like that. But in Wonder Woman 1984, she's like 8 or 9, obviously younger than that scene in Wonder Woman 1. But her mom's there and has like no problem with her in the race just so long as she's not cheating and shit.
That's true. That's right. Because it's not until she catches her when she's a little bit older that she's kind of like, all right, you're gonna fucking like train her for no, but hold on, I'm trying to think now.
She caught her when she was like 13 or 14, and specifically said something to the effect of like, because I just watched the first movie a few days ago, and she did say like if you're gonna train her, then like
train her the hardest that she's ever like anybody else has ever been trained.
Yeah, but like. She didn't. I'm pretty sure she had like no knowledge that Antiope was like training her or anything like that, and she was training as a warrior.
Yeah, at the first portion of the movie. No, so you're right. It does make you think like maybe that was just something that they just let her do. You know what I mean? Like being a part of this big race. It's not like she's really training to be a warrior per se. But
it could be. I guess you could stretch that.
Yeah, kind of just. But I can see the thought process because her mother does seem in these moments how she seems after she does begin training. You know what I mean? Like she's kind of used to her being like this really badass girl. She's killing it for the first portion of it. So and she's already been through some training. So it makes you wonder if her mom really didn't want her to be trained. Wouldn't she question, even if she didn't know still at this point that she was being trained, wouldn't she question how she's so good? You know what I mean? In this moment. So that is a valid criticism for sure.
Yeah. And other continuity things, like, I guess Wonder Woman's shield just magically disappeared in this movie because there's no shield in this movie at all.
That's true. Yeah, now I think about it. her shield at all. Why?
She used it in Wonder Woman the first movie, and she used it in BVS. So I'm just like,
yeah, they definitely used the lasso a lot in this movie. The lasso.
oh yeah, like I enjoyed that.
Yeah, so did I. But no, yeah, you're right. Now that I think about it, they like out of everything, not even her sword. I don't think she has her sword in this movie at all either.
Yeah, and so originally, the whole thing with the invisible jet, like I don't mind how they did that, but I originally thought the first jet they showed off that Steve Trevor was like putting his hand on, I thought that was going to be it, and it was just going to have some like advanced cloaking technology or something like that.
Yeah.
But like she just mentioned something like, "Oh yeah, my father had been like found a way to do this." I think that's how they explained it, right? Like my father like was trying to do this, and I'd like tried to do it once and struggled to do it with like a soda can or something.
Yeah, she was like, did it once, and he was like, and she's like, I lost it, and he was like, what was it or wwhatever? She was like, it's like a cup of coffee or coffee cup or something like that.
Yeah. And then another continuity thing, like I didn't hear her say her name was Cheetah in the film at all.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a continuity thing or just, hold on. Did she call her Cheetah?
I don't think she did, but it's on HBO Max, so I can still go back. And like I said, if she did maybe once subtly, there was probably so much going on that I just didn't hear it.
Yeah, I don't think they did. I think that they just kind of, like, they've done that with a few villains over time, that they don't really, like, bring out their, like their villain comic book name, you know what I mean? Like they'll kind of just have villain like their, like, if I'm not mistaken, do they ever like call like Vulture in Homecoming? I think they make like reference to him kind of being like a vulture, but I don't think they ever
I think sometimes it works because like with Vulture, he was like Vulture for a good half of the film.
Yeah.
Basically, like it's not just like he got the armor and automatically like knew how to use it right away.
Yeah.
But I think it's just because Cheetah was just like Cheetah for one scene. It probably wouldn't even matter if you gave her a name because she switched back anyway. So I guess why give a name to someone who just switched back?
Yeah, it's true. Now the more I think about it, the more we're talking about it. They really did underutilize the whole Cheetah part of Cheetah. I guess for me, I really enjoyed the journey of Barbara Minerva.
Yeah, you're fine.
I really enjoyed her journey throughout the course of the film, but yeah, I think it goes without saying that they underutilized the Cheetah part of it. And out of all the cheesy things they leaned into, you would think that they would have leaned into the name Cheetah at some point, especially with her kind of making a point that she, like, Diana was wearing like animal like print shoes earlier in the movie, and then she herself was wearing like cheetah print like skirt, but then they never make a point to like have her say anything about a cheetah specifically.
Yeah, so I definitely, I can definitely accept that. Like, you don't need a character's name, but like, there's probably a lot of people who like have that disconnect of like, why is this person like a cheetah? She said she just wanted to be an apex predator, but like, I think they probably could have done it a little better. And overall, as I've said, if we're gathering stuff up, because that's all I can really think of continuity wise. Patty Jenkins did say that this film isn't connected to the other ones, so that could mean that it's like it doesn't have direct ties, which it did. It didn't really have too many direct ties to other DCU films, because I don't even think they make reference to like Etta Candy and all those other crew members from the first film. Apparently, I saw an article saying there was like a picture behind like that picture of her at Trevor Ranch or something like that. I'd have to go back and check.
At the beginning of the movie, when they're showing her apartment, and it's like I think the opening credits are still going on. This is after like the opening with her on like as a younger girl. During that intro in her apartment, they actually go by a bunch of different pictures, and it's a bunch of them are the different characters from then, like doing different missions and stuff with her. And one of them is that lady you were just talking about, Steve Trevor's like secretary, like much older. It was the same actress, but much older in the picture with Diana. So they definitely made
so that and it was like something in the background, right? It wasn't something necessarily that you would have noticed, like unless you're like Hawkeye or something like that.
it was pretty in your face. I will say, like, they were just showing the characters, but I think it was easy, like, to kind of miss, I guess, if anything, because when you
Okay.
see the lady who was Steve Trevor's secretary in the first movie in that picture, she's a much older woman. I just have seen that first one so many times that, like, I recognized her face the second I saw it. But I like
Yeah.
that, like, it was like a subtle way to tell the audience, like, time has moved on. These people from the first movie are dead, and
Yeah. Well,
Anna
that's why I'm glad I'm doing this too with you, because like I don't want to seem like 100% dumbass. So if there's stuff I missed, I would rather someone point it out to me, because that makes me want to go back and watch the film again. So I watched a film with a group of 5 people in my house on Christmas, my family members. So, and I had a little bit to drink, so that could have been it too.
No, yeah, but that's kind of like the same thing with me, like you kind of bringing out some of these negatives or continuity things that make you go, oh yeah, like that doesn't 100% tie in, because like we talked about it a little bit on my channel for Random Rambling, but like there's this disconnect in people, like just having conversation, the nuance of discussion, like here's one person who that didn't really love the film, and here's another person who really loved the film, and being able to kind of agree with each other on certain things while also being able to at least understand where the other person's coming from.
Yeah, it's just like with anything, with a relationship, with a friendship, you want to be open minded so that y'all can grow. Just like with this, like I don't want to be a close minded, like, oh, this movie was great, it was fucking fantastic, and like if your opinion's bad, like it doesn't matter to me, like I'm gonna mute you or some shit. I don't know.
Exactly. Like you want to be able to discuss these things and point things out that maybe, oh yeah, like that does work for me a little bit more. You're right. Maybe I didn't see that as good as it was. Or in your case, like, oh yeah, like for me, like it's like that. I didn't really think about those continuity errors or some of those moments that just don't work 100%. And I can totally see why that would.
Everyone's brains work differently too.
I've learned in the last couple of years, especially having started this channel, that I really enjoy. It's almost like, it's always a bummer when you like for instance, when I do a collab with somebody on my channel, I have them over to do a collab, and it's a movie I love, and then they watch it and they're just like, yeah, this movie sucked, and it's like a bummer to it, you know what I mean? Or times when it's a movie that I think is terrible and they love it. I just find it so interesting nowadays to see how different people's heads work, which is why I have so many people on my channel for collabs, because I just feel like it's so fun to have these people who are down to just watch anything because they're fans of film. So they watch it just to hear their opinions, and even if they hate something that I may love, because I like to see where different people are coming from. You know what I mean? So that's why, if anything, though it's a little disappointing to an extent because I love this film, it has been really interesting to see how this one has divided the fans so much compared to some other films that I would say are maybe worse than this one,
Yeah, 100%. And I'm curious about, I don't know necessarily if there would be deleted scenes, but I'm curious about if there was any type of like reshoots done or anything like that, because I believe there's word, like the word around the water cooler is Patty Jenkins is trying to do a third one, but she said she won't do it if it goes to streaming, and I'm unsure because she's got the Rogue Squadrons movie coming out.
Yeah.
And so I guess we'll see. Is there any other final thoughts you had on this movie that you can spoil for people? Oh, I just completely forgot the mid-credit scene.
Oh yeah, dude, that was a genuine surprise, and it's funny because I almost expected. Well, go ahead. I'll let you go ahead and tell people what you get from this mid-credit scene, and then we'll talk about it.
So yeah, with the mid-credit scene, you have a woman walking forward, and it looks like a similar type of 80s street. It could have been another era, but it looked similar to the streets that they showed in the film. And woman, she's wearing a cloak, she's got black hair. Everyone thought it was Diana, but then I believe it's like a telephone pole falls down, she catches it, and another girl comes up to thank her or whatever, and turns around, it's Linda Carter, the original Wonder Woman, and she's playing Asteria, who was the person who originally had that golden armor, I think. But I enjoyed that scene. Like I'm excited for what's next, but the problem is for me, like if Wonder Woman is going to take place in like anywhere past like the mid 90s for the next film, it has to be either like cosmic, it has to take place in the Amazon. I would love to have it take place in like some remote Amazon like forest or village or something, and it'd be like that treasure hunting expedition type movie. where it's very remote and not a lot of people just see her. Like she's not in the middle of all the shit.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's what really suits the character of Wonder Woman. You know what I mean? Is this kind of otherworldly kind of thing? It's kind of she's always kind of been the character for me that's I would say is kind of similar to like, even though I've always kind of thought she's kind of similar to like Thor is what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Typically, I mean, like you could say like Thor and Superman are more similar because they're from different planets, but with I feel like just that kind of the fun that you can get, the more mythological, fantastical adventure fun that you can get with like a Thor in the comics and stuff like that, just on an aesthetic level as well, really kind of leans into what I think Wonder Woman has always kind of been for me as well on the DC side of things. So yeah, I really like that mid-credit scene. Nice hint and nod. I know that Lynda Carter wanted to be in the first movie, but there was some issues with scheduling with her, and so she wasn't able to get there for filming. So they ended up throwing her in this one. Thought that was really cool. Really enjoyed that mid-credit scene. Put a smile on my face. And yeah, man, as far as my final thoughts, I really did love this movie. I thought it would just be a good time. That it's not the greatest comic book movie, but as far as the DCEU, let's be honest, not every installment has been a home run. There's been some lesser ones, but there has not been a single DCEU film that I've flat out disliked or hated. There's been elements about some of them that I have hated, but on an overall, I find the films to be good fun. And this, for me, kind of right out of the gate, when the movie started, I feel like it harkened back to the days of just kind of good fun, over the top, like comic book movies with a big over the top villain with Pedro Pascal's character. And some fun, good action with some great character moments and a good message. Was it the most cohesively written narrative? No, maybe not. But I did find it to be a good time. I think the first one is still my favorite in the current line of continuity.
Same.
But I still really thoroughly enjoyed this movie, man. I want to hear your final thoughts.
So yeah, it's more the same of what we discussed. I still overall loved Gal Gadot. She's a fantastic actress, and I can't wait to see what she has to offer in the future outside of DCEU. I think she's working on a Cleopatra film coming up. And so she has that, and all the other characters, like I like their acting in this film. I mean, it's not like Barbara Minerva as Cheetah acted ridiculous and goofy and way over the top. Like for the first 2/3, I enjoyed how she was. Kristen Wiig killed it, surprisingly, because I'm not usually a huge fan besides a few skits on SNL and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the CGI for the most part looked good, but as you were saying, there's certain scenes with the chase sequences where it looks like she's too floaty. Like she was running in a green screen on like a green screen treadmill versus the actual street. So it looks like her like legs were like not running at the correct speed, or that could have been a harkening back to a Wonder Woman effect or something. Like Man of Steel, when it was flying, you could hear that like that 1960s whooshing sound that they called back to.
Yeah.
Maxwell Lord, loved him. Barbara Minerva, loved him. The fact that Steve Trevor came back, I didn't mind that. They didn't do it terribly. And how Gal Gadot inspired people as Wonder Woman. The score was uplifting and definitely attributed to what the message she wanted to spread around was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't agenda pushy, because I know some movies get to that point when you have like a female hero or someone who is African American or of a different culture. Sometimes they make other people look like assholes just for being different. I'm glad they didn't do anything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's all it is. It definitely felt lacking to me, but there was enough that I would still be interested in the franchise. It's not like I'm done with DC or something like that. Because that's what the top shelf is. The top shelf's all DC stuff.
Nice, yeah, man. When I've seen people like that, they're completely over the franchise, or they're like completely acting like this movie is unwatchable. I'm just like, dude, like if it wasn't your favorite, that's okay. I get it. But have you seen movies like?
Yeah, they're different directors, they're different writers. So
yeah, I saw people saying like this was like the worst movie of 2020. I'm like, you didn't see many movies this year.
Yeah, you did not. And like DC pretty much has been kicking out hits for me, like Stargirl, Swamp Thing for TV series, Birds of Prey, Shazam.
Yeah.
Despite a few flaws, I loved Aquaman too. So. And even Justice League, it was a decent film. Like it's kind of how I feel about this film. Decent film. There was a good amount wrong with it, but it's not going to turn me off or anything like that. No. So overall, like if I were to give it a score, it would probably be around a 6. So I'm not saying that for you to give a number or anything like that, but I know I just haven't, to my YouTube audience here, I haven't set an overall score. So
Yeah.
that's where it would probably land for me.
Yeah, I don't really do scoring on my channel because I always struggle with finding a definitive number. But the way I typically do it is on a recommendation or not recommendation. And I recommend this movie. I think that even for its flaws, it's got good, fun action. I think if you're a fan of Wonder Woman, I think if you're a fan of the mythology and the lore, you can have a good time. It's a little jam packed, and there are some things that may not work for everybody. And, you know,
Yeah.
conversation. But don't let a lot of the hate kind of push you away from not seeing this movie at all, or maybe thinking I should skip that one. Make the decision for yourself. I think it's definitely worth a watch, even if you don't love it.
Yeah, it's like my one friend Candace, she lives over in Australia. She saw it like a week and a half ago, like a week and a half before it came out, something like that. So she said it was just okay, but she doesn't like watch superhero stuff. So it's not her thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of people who did see it and are huge diehard DC fans and stuff like that didn't like it, or I felt that like my dad and brother both had the same issues I had with it.
Yeah.
But other people I've talked to, like my one friend Thomas, he is a bigger comic book fan than you could ever know. Like collectibles, comic books, 100% watches every comic book related TV show, like Valiant, Hellblazer, like like any comic you can think of, he's seen it, and he loved the movie. So it is for different people. Like it's I can't say I don't recommend seeing this movie at all because different people find different things they like. So as a whole, I would recommend it because if you're a comic book fan and if you're a fan of DC and just action films in general, there's fun to be had with this.
Yeah.
It's fun to, as much fun as other films, not so much in my opinion, but it's still. And I think Joe Rogan said it the best is like how many movies out there that people give tens to like Shutter Islanders or Inception, but would they go back and watch it again?
It's true, man. There's a lot of people who give really high reviews to films, and they don't give them rewatches. And I think that this film for me definitely has rewatchability. I look forward.
You're making me want to rewatch it because there's certain things I probably was just too much of a dumbass to pick up on or anything like that. So I think to have a viewing by myself, put the phone aside and just focus on the film and see if maybe I'll find a newfound appreciation for it. It's a possibility, but I'm glad I had this discussion with you, man, to kind of open my mind a bit.
Yeah, man, and same for you, man. Like even though I love the film, I do like to be able to hear what it is that maybe I missed out on, so that when I am talking to other people who didn't like the film, I can agree or disagree on certain things that I'm like, oh yeah, like that has been brought to my attention. Whereas sometimes with the first viewing, that's kind of why I review a lot of older films on my channels, because I just kind of feel like by the time I'm reviewing it, I've usually seen it a good amount of times to have a solidified 110%, kind of thought process on it, which you can a lot of times have the general thoughts with one viewing of a movie, but it's that lifespan, you know what I mean? What will this movie, Wonder Woman 84, be like for us viewers in 10 years? You know what I mean? Looking back on it.
Who knows? Because people view movies differently. Like you could have loved the movie from the 90s, and when you're watching it, and you're just like, yeah, the CGI looks bad and stuff. But one thing I do kind of want to put you on the spot, because for a while I was going through a rut and I didn't want to do videos. I was releasing old videos and not passing them off as new ones because I would put like retro upload or something like that. But like talking to you in the Random Rambling and other stuff, it's just kind of given me a little bit more motivation to be more consistent now, because I would put out stuff like once or twice a month the past few months. There's a lot of Smallville videos, which I'm known for, that I haven't done, that I'm starting to work on again. I'm starting to work on more road trip videos. I wasn't even going to do a review for Wonder Woman, but I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm starting to feel it again. I'm starting to feel that, because for a while I just like lost the spark a bit. So I want to just thank you for that, man. Like I said, put you on the spot.
Man, I you're welcome, dude. Honestly, this has been a fun thing to do, right? And look, the reality of the situation is, prior to even the Random Rambling we did on my channel, we were YouTube acquaintances in the sense that we had each other on Facebook, and we had each other on we would comment each other's videos. But now I'd like to think like we've had a good amount of time of talking. I feel like you're a good friend, you're a good guy.
Thanks,
yeah, man, it's been cool to get to know you, and the more I've gotten to know you, I've realized you have a lot of passion for this. So I am surprised to hear that
100%. I might not be the smartest guy, but I got passion.
You're a smart dude. You know what you're talking about, and I enjoy hearing your thoughts on things, man. So just in the times that we've done these collabs on each other's channels, yeah, I think without a doubt, man, I'm looking forward to seeing what you do as you keep going. Because yeah, man, YouTube can be incredibly discouraging. There are times where I turn the camera on and I'm totally faking the funk. You know what I mean? And I'm able to have fun while I'm filming it, and then I edit it. But then I let myself get down on the views, or let myself get down on things that really don't matter. But then
You do it for you. You do it for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a good feeling once you've done it. Once you look back at the month and you're like, wow, I did like 2 or 3, maybe 4 videos in the week when I had free time, depending on the week. And you know, like it's a satisfying feeling to look back on. And yeah, man, I'm happy that I could help reignite a little bit, because I know for me, recently I had kind of a similar kind of rut. I was feeling down on my channel maybe like a couple months ago, like a month and a half ago. And you know, I just reached out to a couple other YouTubers that I'm close to, and they all kind of just hit me with different sparks of you know, relatability, or just you know, inspiration or stuff like that.
Yeah, because sometimes we view people on a pedestal, and it's like Anthony Perez, like dude puts out like 4 videos a week, which is great. This guy's consistent. For whoever's watching, like this dude puts great content out there. But like someone like that, like if I was looking up, like I'll never be like him or anything. It's like no, like just everyone does things at their own pace. They do things differently. If you wanted to be like someone you were looking up to, like say if I wanted to like dress like Johnny Depp or something like that, well, that's his style though. Like I wouldn't be unique for having the same style, just as like I wouldn't be unique for doing the same type of reviews or format as you.
Yeah, man. And at the end of the day, you know, we're all doing this for fun, for the love of movies, for the love of the passion. You know, being able to discuss your thoughts
For the love of God. No.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, man, I'm happy I could help, because I know that in those moments for me, I need help. You know what I mean? Like there are these moments that you just feel like you're just kind of like right now. I've taken a couple days off. I was gonna film something today, maybe after this, but as we've been doing this, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm just gonna sit back. I have today off. I'm gonna play some Xbox and hang out, because sometimes we get caught.
You got to recharge, man.
Yeah, like you get caught in this mentality of like, oh, I gotta get an upload up. If not, like my channel's not relevant. And then the longer you wait, then you're like discouraged about it. You're like, you know, who cares? And then you know, then you kind of like do it and you feel good. You feel like it's fun. It's a nice creative outlet. So I've always really enjoyed your videos, man. So I'm glad to hear that. You know, we've talked a little bit about it on Random Rambling on my channel, about you were talking about being discouraged. So I'm glad to hear that you feel that spark coming back, because yeah, man,
I definitely do, man.
You just need that time to recharge and kind of be excited to do it again. If not, it's not going to be at your best, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And I appreciate you saying that, because it's putting it in hindsight. Because other people, I mean, it's not like this video is going to get hundreds of thousands of views, but other people out there could be, if it's just one person that feels similar and they're hearing us talk about this, then that's great. Then like they know that everyone's human, and not to just put someone up on a pedestal. But that's all I really have about Wonder Woman and just the future of DC as a whole. We got Suicide Squad and the Snyder Cut coming in 2021. From what I know of, unless they try to sneak something in. I think Black Adam was supposed to come out, but that's not happening anymore.
No. There's a lot of great stuff coming out on Marvel's side, on DC, and just in entertainment in general. That if you're a fan of comic book related things, there's always things coming out. With all the TV shows we're coming up soon with Marvel and stuff, we're gonna have a lot to talk about. So, Matt, thank you so much for having me in this video, man, to talk about 84, Wonder Woman 84. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Hey, if there's not anything else, I'm just probably gonna wrap it up right here.
Sounds good to me, man.
Well, hey, everyone, thank you for joining me and Anthony and listening to us for over an hour talk about Wonder Woman, all the spoilers we could possibly think of in one video. Thanks for joining me, Anthony, and everyone, thanks for watching.